And then the World tab here. The World tab and the Render tab are very closely related. They are bros, and much of everything going on in your World tab is very related to your Render tab. The World tab controls your background image. As you can see here under Preview, this is what the background is going to look like of whatever I render. And as you can see in my render down here, it's this white background because that's all we have set up. So if I click under the World tab, you can change whether you want it to be a blend sky. Real sky is just using one color. Blend sky is blending this color, and then using this as an ambient color. But really all you need to remember with the blend sky is that you can create a gradient with these two colors for your background. So if I click on this horizon color here, this color picker shows up, and I'll change it to like a light blue, and I can change the darkness here. And if I change this color, say to like an orangey, redishy kind of thing, and now I have a very like Lisa Frank looking gradient. Okay, so now that we have changed the world background color, if we hit F12, which is the hotkey for to render, if we hit F12, we'll see that we now have this background color we just created. I'll hit tilde key to go into here and zoom in on that. So minimize that, and going down, the ambient occlusion controls lighting effects between different objects, bouncing off shadows and things between objects. Basically, it's creates kind of ambient light effects that make a render look more realistic. So if I hit tilde key here, you can kind of see the light's a bit strong, but there's a little bit of ambient occlusion going on around the corners here, which help to make this be a little more believable. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and click on the sphere and hit T to bring up my tool shelf. And under shading, I'm going to hit smooth. And you can see now that that sphere looks a lot better. So if we hit F12 and hit tilde key, going here, you know, looks a lot nicer. Anyway, going down the World tab, so ambient occlusion, it can use up quite a bit of resources on your computer, but it makes makes your overall image look much nicer. And then we have environmental lighting highlighted, and anything you're rendering in 3D requires a light source. I'm going to go ahead and hit 1 to go back into front view. And by the way, you don't have to be looking through the camera for the camera to render. We can be in the regular 3D view wherever and hit F12 to render, and it's going to still render from the position of where the camera is. So if I turn on the viewport button to see where the camera is, you see it's there, and it's still going to render what it's looking at right there. In any 3D scene, you need a light source for the objects to render. And my only light source I have set up in this scene is this Hemi. So if I select that, and then I turn on visibility and the little mouse icon, which is basically like locking it or not locking it, we can see the lamp up here, and it's for some reason scaled up super huge. So I'll click on it, hit S to scale it down, G to grab it, middle mouse to constrain it, bring it on down there. Then I'm going to hit Shift C, which centers me back towards the grid here. As I rotate this light, you can't really see its effects on the cube and the sphere, and that is because the viewport shading mode we are under is solid. And the solid view typically provides a type of default generic lighting for all your objects, so you can just see them really well. If you want to see how the lighting and shadows are affecting your objects, you can switch it to texture view. Now, having this Hemi light selected, if we hit R to rotate it, you can see how the rotation of this lamp is affecting the light source on the objects. And the specific type of lamp this is, Hemi, is a type that it doesn't really matter where the position of this lamp is, only the rotation matters, because it's pretty much creating a light source only on those objects from a specific direction, and its position is kind of arbitrary. As you can see, when we have this lamp selected, which we can select in the 3D viewport or also select it via our outliner here, we get this icon in the properties panel here for the object data of this lamp. And we have a preview of what the light from this lamp looks like, much like we have a preview of our world background view too. So we can we don't have to make a new one of these lights. We can actually just change this light to any type of different light source we want to right here in the object data. And we can change the color of the light as well. And as you can see, as I change the color of this light here, it seems to be changing the color of these objects, but that's just because that's the type of light that is being casted on there. So I'll go ahead and turn this back to white here, and you can control the values of the RGB here as well. If we go back to the world view, what I was talking about earlier, the environment lighting, so I have only one light source in the scene. It's this hemi light here, and I usually keep the visibility off and restrict selection off, so I can't touch it or see it in the scene, so I don't have to fool with it. I only turn those things on when I need to adjust where they are or position them. I typically, anything with all kinds of lines and all kind of stuff like that, it starts getting annoying to me, so I keep its visibility off. But the render tab here that's highlighted, this indicates that this light here is going to render into the scene. But if I turn the render tab off, then you can no longer see the effects of this light source in the scene. However, because I have environmental lighting check marked under the world view, this is going to provide a base amount of light, and I have a very small amount of light, like 0.25 for the energy, regardless of any other lamps I have set up in the scene. So if I hit F12 to render, you'll see that it's now much darker because my light is not set to render. However, there is still a little bit of light there providing from this energy from the environmental lighting. So the environmental lighting is great for setting up a base, and I'll raise that up to 1, for providing a base lighting over your whole scene, and is a good way to quickly render something decently if you just want to get a basic idea of what's going to look like without setting up a bunch of lights. So increase that energy to 12. I hit F12. All right, increase it to 1. If I hit F12, you can now see that it's much more light there. I'll drop that back down to 0.25, and I will turn the render tab on for my hemi light here. And so going down the line, we have an option for indirect lighting, which is, like it says, only works with approximate gather method. And what that means is this ambient occlusion, which is providing these like little shadowy areas in the corners and crevices, which makes stuff look cool and more realistic. This works in relation to this gather tab. And the type of system it's using is ray trace, which is a bit more resource heavy, but really the only way to do it, and provides a very good result. And so we keep the indirect lighting turned off because it doesn't really do anything under ray trace. And the main thing to note, one of the real important things under this world tab is your samples under the gather. This is going to, the lower the samples, the more really grainy your renders are going to look, and the higher the samples, the more higher quality of shadowing happens. And so to increase the quality of your render, you want to bump these samples up to, sometimes 10, 12, 15 even, depending on what you're doing. But I typically keep it on 4 because it produces an okay result. And then you have the option to add mist and stars, which you can only see the effects of the mist if you're under viewport shading or under texture mode. Likewise, you can only see the effects of your lamps if you're in the texture viewport mode. That pretty much sums up the render, scene, and world tabs of the properties panel.